Welcome to the Wicked Bee of the West YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie Diana Eubank. I'm a doctoral candidate at Concordia University of Chicago, and I'm a business professor of operational management at Stan State. So I want to bring up a really interesting and complex business organizational culture issue. And it's really interesting to me because as remote work takes a bigger foothold, we're seeing the fall of middle management and the rise of the SME or the subject matter expert. As a great example, I know it's meant to be a dramatization, but it is a common thing to see in the business place, especially in operational management, especially in higher echelons of leadership. So there's a YouTuber I really adore. Her name is Ella Whaley, and or Laura as her primary name. She does this really interesting uh YouTube series on work dynamics as a dramatization. Specifically, there's an instance where HR goes to the person who has worked in that company in a role for a long time and asks if they want to be promoted up into management. Now, as leaders, it is the common belief, especially for those who are in middle management, the way that they got there is because they were great at their job. So they thought, why not have them lead the team? Just because you're good at your job does not in any capacity mean that you know how to lead a team, how to influence others, how to meet performance goals, etc. These are things that are taught. This being said, we kind of thrust these people into a leadership role with very little training, really, aside from how to operate the HR capacity, such as payroll or sign people up or approve or deny uh, time off or trainings, etc. We're not taught much else unless we go to school and learn business leadership or take other courses. Some people are just born into being a natural leader, but again, a lot of these concepts have to be taught because you don't necessarily know you've been a toxic leader until you learn the aspects of leadership, particularly one that's repeated a lot in the armed forces, which is you can't lead until you've learned how to follow, which for the academic sphere means you have to study followership or those who are in non-leadership roles in order to understand what your teams need in order to be successful. This being said, we often push these people as the only way that they can get a higher up income is to go into these leadership roles. And an interesting thing appears in remote work and again is killing our middle management, but this is a good thing. So in remote work, especially in remote teams, these teams develop what is called shared leadership. Now, shared leadership is totally different than groupthink. Groupthink is where you just have a bunch of people throwing the same idea and going, that's what I thought, that's what I thought. Shared leadership, on the other hand, is basically where you have a team, everyone has autonomy. Everybody knows, okay, you're in charge of this part of the project, you're in charge of that part of the project. If you don't deliver, that is your whole team, but specifically you are the one holding the bag if you don't meet the demand. This being said, you develop shared leadership where there might be somebody who is the term is producing manager, which is the person who is actually working in and just doing some of these HR capacities and are paid a little bit more to do that. Nothing wrong with that. But it means that the death of the middle manager who just manages people is coming to fruition, which is, again, a good thing because it means that companies will be able to stop focusing so much on hiring leadership so that there's so many food critics in the room, but not enough chefs. And instead can redistribute their finances towards hiring more talent and incentivizing talent with more pay raises and hiring more subject matter experts to help advise your teams and help your teams really develop and cultivate their skill sets per project. This means that middle managers who don't know how to lead become toxic only because they don't know any better and haven't been trained properly in leadership. And unfortunately, the biggest pitfall that I see middle managers fall into because of this lack of training is they confuse fear with respect. And as such, again, remote work gives the benefit of where we can have shared leadership. People feel more ownership over their work and thus can develop more pride, and it works as a motivational tool as well for those in upper leadership. This also means that in the higher echelons of leadership, we're going to have to redefine a lot of stuff, such as how are we uh, filtering how people qualify for these upper leadership roles. Companies will have to focus more on hiring quality talent, and the goal not being to promote them into management, but rather promote them as high as they can and develop more and more challenges for them to meet versus a specific role that they have to fill, a specific management title they need to ascend to. This also means that people who hold just leadership roles will, especially middle management, will cease to be uh, a thing that we're really seeking in business, which again helps with the financial balances. There'll also be more subject matter experts who I've had being a subject matter expert for most of my career and talking with colleagues and those who are mentors in the academic field have all pointed out that there is a specific je ne sais quoi that most companies look for in leadership. And it's basically filling this little box as far as your personality and the way you present yourself. Subject matter experts, we don't do that. We're human, we're flawed, and we embrace it, but we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. We are skilled in our field. That's why we're subject matter experts. It's kind of like if your house is flooding, you don't call grandpa who's never touched a pipe before and ask them to fix it and clean it up. You call a plumber. Think of us as the ones who are helping to fix and strengthen your projects and your organization because we have the subject matter expertise. We tend to be a little eccentric or just different or weird, however you want to describe us. I personally describe myself as unique or a unicorn or whatever other fictional character is described, but I am a gift horse that keeps on giving and keeps creating more miracles in the workplace, much like every other SME that works their butt off in business. This being said, you're going to see more of a rise in companies wanting SMEs and incorporating them into their teams to help training and help fill in all of those gaps in understanding. And as such, you're also going to see more SMEs put into these higher echelons of leadership. So you're going to see a transition from what traditionally people think of a leader as into this new paradigm of what a leader is. And in the remote world, in remote work, we are able to lead more authentically, which means subject matter experts like me are able to really shine more. Lastly, leadership will have to develop more of a psychological understanding of the overall operations of business and how businesses are run, along with the people. Again, studying followership, studying what their teams actually need to be able to be productive and thrive. These organizational changes are not going to happen overnight. These are systemic needs that are growing as time goes on. And of course, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be pushback. So much pushback about remote, but it is the future. Remote is the future of work. This is a debate that has been happening since the 1980s, and we got to have a dry run during COVID. Changes in the air, and the research over the last century has pointed out the necessary changes for businesses to stay on the cutting edge and avoid the current situation of, again, having too many food critics in the kitchen and not enough chefs. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And remember, remote, it's here to stay.